Bonsoir tout le monde. Good evening, everybody. Hello, Gail at night. Hello, Dojo of Manhood. Long time no see. I'm so glad to see you. Lashes Journey, what are you doing here? Aren't you supposed to be working? Get back to stocking the shelves. Come on. Lashes, stop listening to me and get to work. Oh, thank you guys for being here. Of course, we're getting back into our old ways. I apologize in advance if I cough tonight. I'm still a little bit under the weather, but I am feeling a lot better. But thank you, everybody, for being here. Pardon me for the tardiness. I got caught up in a few things and then looked up and, oh my God, I'm late. So I'm here now. And again, I apologize if you hear me cough, and I'm about to now. Excuse me. Very rude of me. But tonight we're going to, like I said, get back into our old ways and continue with our series. Let's talk the arts come to life. Where, excuse me, of course, I will be talking tonight about art. This particular episode, I'm going to dedicate it to first Jen Corporate. It was his idea for me to do this particular topic. Tonight, I will be presenting three Canadian artists, one of which I already spoke about, but I cannot speak about him too much, at least in my personal opinion. I really enjoy his work a lot. And the other two are artists that I've seen before but have never presented. So I figured I'd take this opportunity to present these artists to you, and hopefully you guys will learn something tonight, and hopefully enjoy what I have to present to you guys tonight. So, as you guys can see, I do sometimes listen to what you guys suggest, not all the time, but don't be afraid to suggest, hey, I'd really like to hear you talk about this, talk about that. I don't always, say, oh, yeah, I'll do it right away, because there's some things that I feel that are not really part of my brand or what I want to talk about. Other things like, hey, let's talk about Canadian artists. I have no problems with that whatsoever. So feel free either in the chat or if you're watching this on the replay to leave me a comment saying, hey, I really like this video. Can you talk about this? Can you talk about that? Or I saw you had photos on your Flickrs from this. I'd really like to know more about it, whatever the case might be. But like I said, I don't always do everything that's suggested, but I at least consider it. Okay? And yes, thank you, Lashes. People do hit the like button. We all know the game when it comes to engagement on YouTube, right? The chats, the comments, the like button, even the dislike button, even the comments up first or whatever, all of that counts for engagement. So you love me, you hate me, as long as you're engaged, go for it. All right, so I won't keep this too long. I do want to try to keep my lives down to half an hour, 45 minutes. For me, I'm not what it used to be when I loved doing 5, 6, 7, 10 hours. To me, right now, half an hour, 45-minute long streams, that's more than enough as far as I'm concerned. But definitely, guys, if there is a topic that I see is worth going longer for, I definitely will. So tonight we're going to be talking about three Canadian artists. I try to get at least a little bit different and not have just the white men artists in the crew, but there are going to be, a little bit of diversity because I find that it is important to, talk and present about all artists, not just certain ones. And if you guys haven't done so already, please do participate in the poll. I just did this poll more out of curiosity more than anything else. And of course, when we speak of the devil, he shall appear. Hello, first Gen Corporate. This video is dedicated to you, sir. I'm going to be talking tonight about three Canadian artists as you had suggested. So hopefully, first Gen, you're going to enjoy this episode. But let me know if you did or not, or if you learned anything new, or whatever the case might be. Any engagement, good or bad, is good engagement as far as I'm concerned. And so far, I've seen that five of you have voted. So for hopefully all of you have voted in the poll. And by the sounds of it, I think most of the options got at least one vote, one got two. I see that one person said that yes, they would encourage the government to support art, especially local. One of you said no, the tax money is needed elsewhere. Uh, Somebody said yes, but only if there's enough. And two people said not sure. Okay, I mean it's fair enough for me personally. I think tax money going to the arts is a good idea. Sometimes we don't always think about it, but the museums are often government supported, right, in some way, shape, or form. So that's one way that your tax money is going into the arts, okay? But oftentimes we don't think about it. But it's not always about just giving quote unquote lazy artists free money, right? A lot of times it's making sure that schooling is affordable. Like I said, that museums are able to afford some of the exhibits that they might want to have, or things like that. So, without any further delay, I'm going to get into tonight's topic. And hopefully, guys, you enjoyed. Let me know. Don't be afraid. You guys know how I am. I try as much as possible to be easy, squeezy, lemon. Yeah, whatever the saying goes. My mind blanked out on that. Thank God. Good God, my brain really did not want to say that saying. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. There we go. Finally got it right. Sorry about that, guys. My brain just really didn't. It just froze on me. I had a brain fart on that one, guys. Oh my goodness. All right. So tonight we're going to be talking about one woman and two men. Okay. Two of these individuals are of Native American origin. One of them isn't. So we'll be talking about first and foremost Nadia Meir, then Kent Monkman, and then Marc-Aurèle Fortin. All right, so I'm going to go into it a little bit here with you guys. I'm also going to be presenting some of the photos I took from the exhibits that these individuals did, either at the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts and or at the Contemporary Art Museum of Montreal. And these are photos that I took, so I don't have to worry about copyright or anything else, which is why I have no problems. I will show them to you guys later on as I'm talking about the artist. And if you guys have questions or things that you want to say, feel free. Okay, the chat is open for anybody, everybody who wants to talk about this. Before I continue, I'll put myself on mute because I do feel like I need to cough really badly, and I'll also get some music going as well. All right, thank you guys for your patience. Let me know, guys, if the music is too loud or too distracting or what have you. I think I have it at the right level where it's not going to overwhelm me while I'm talking and not going to be too distracted. But let me know, guys. Hello, hello, before the billions. How you doing? I hope that everything went well, and I did enjoy your live, even though I caught only the last maybe I think 20, 30 minutes of it or whatever the case might be. I know I caught the tail end of it. It was still an enjoyable live, and I definitely appreciated Tam's perspective. Bonsoir, monsieur. J'espère que tu vas bien ce soir, mon ami. So, yeah, no problem, Gail. Thank you for having me on and for supporting me. Much appreciated, and I really don't mind. I know you work very hard all day, every day, not only for yourself, but also to support all the fellow YouTubers. And thank you, Lashes, because I know technically you're on the night shift right now. So thank you guys for having me on in the background. I appreciate it. But I do hope that you guys are listening, even if you might not be paying attention 100% or being able to chat in the chat room. Okay, the music is good. Thank you, Gail, for letting me know. All right, guys, so let's get into it. So, first up is going to be Nadia May. Okay, she is a fellow Montrealer. So, of course, you guys know I have to favor my local people, my fellow Montrealers. So, I had to at least get one of the Montreal crew in here. She is a little bit older than me, so I'm aging myself a little bit. She was born in 1974, and she is a contemporary visual artist. She is of Algonquin heritage. Okay, so she is one of the two Native American artists that I will be featuring tonight. She graduated from the Camosun College. She also then went to university at the Emily Carr University of Arts and Design to get her bachelor's in fine arts. And she went and came back home to Montreal to get her MBA in arts from Concordia University. Now, some of you may or may not know the name Emily Carr. Okay, she is also another Canadian artist. That's a bit controversial, only because a lot of the artwork she painted a lot of Native American sculptures and artwork, and she had named them oftentimes names that are now considered as sort of disrespectful to a Native American heritage and ethnicities and nations. Sort of like how, say, Negro or the N word is sort of frowned upon and looked poorly upon in the arts. Although we know that, look, back in the days, a lot of artists, a lot of individuals use that word without necessarily um, wanted to make it demeaning to black people. But we know nowadays, look, you don't. There's certain words you don't use, you don't say to other people. So Emily Carr, a lot of her artwork, the titles have since been changed, despite her desire or consultation or whatever, because people have now realized that those titles and names and so forth aren't really appropriate anymore. But that's where she went and got her bachelor's degree in arts from the Emily Carr University. So, to tell you guys a little bit more about Emily Carr, she has won quite a few awards. Okay, so she is an award winning artist. She won in 2014, for example, the Sobe Art Award as well. And she has been given it a few awards from the Quebec government as well. So she isn't an unknown struggling artist, but she has been well awarded and well appreciated for her work. She has been exhibited in quite a few different museums, both here in Canada and in the US, as well as in Europe and a few other countries as well. The first exhibit that I saw her in is Scattered Remains, which I will show you guys a few photos I took in a moment from that exhibit at the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts. Definitely a great place. I discovered quite a few different artists from that particular museum. And usually, fine arts museums, that's what's great about them, is you will find a diversity of subjects, of type of work, of material use, of different artists coming from different backgrounds and ethnicities and so forth. So if you guys have a fine arts museum in your town, and if you're in a major city, especially in the US, you probably do have a fine arts museum. I highly recommend going to visit one if they're open. I get that there's a certain amount of restrictions and government. No, no, you cannot do this. So definitely be safe while you guys go out. But I do encourage you guys to go out and enjoy the arts as much as you can. Right? I know here in Montreal, and I think that's usually pretty typical. There's a free Sunday or a free Tuesday or something, or like one day a month where it's open for business. You can come in freely to see the permanent collections oftentimes. But I know there's a couple of museums as well, especially nature museums, where technically you pay, but it's often donations. So even though they say, oh, the ticket is 19.95 or whatever the price, it's actually a donation, and you can actually just say, look, I don't have all I have is $5, or I don't have any money, but I really want to come see this exhibit. A lot of the nature museums that you see will allow you to just walk on in for free. So ask, don't be shy, don't be afraid to say, hey, look, I really don't have the money. Is there any way for me? But it's usually nature museums that do this, right? So art museums tend to say, hey, the price is $20. If you don't have 20 bucks, you're out of luck, unfortunately, right? Anyways, to get back to our sheep, as the French expression would be "retournons à nos moutons." So let's get back to our sheep. To sort of say, let's get back to our business. Let's mind our own animals and our own business. So we're talking about Nadia Mir, okay? So one of the exhibits that I saw from her is, like I said, scattered remains. So I'm going to now share a couple little images, really briefly, because I'm not going to, I don't want to drone on and on about this particular exhibit forever and ever either. So I'm just going to get a couple of the images out here for you guys to see. So just give me a second here, guys, to get the images for you and then share them. So this is one of them. And again, this is a photo that I took at the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts. So it's my own photo, so I don't have to worry about copyright. And that's the other thing with museums that I enjoy. One of the reasons why I do like going to museums is that a lot of times they do allow you to take photos as long as it's without flash for most of the time. But do make sure to ask, because every once in a while you'll get an exhibit where there's either the entire exhibit or certain specific photos or images you're not allowed to take. Or there's certain museums where they tell you flat out you're not allowed to ever take photos. But oftentimes, more often than not, you are allowed to take photos. So feel free, just be sure to ask, just to be 100% sure. And later on, probably this week or next week, I am going to talk about an exhibit that I just went over the weekend to the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts to watch and enjoy, and took a lot of photos, and I definitely enjoyed it. So this is the first work of Nadia Mir. Now this is, excuse me, something fairly typical of her. So she does have a lot of this work, and we're going to zoom in to it here. So as you can see, it is technically a photo of a beaded work. So all these individual things here are beads that are sewn together to make this beautiful random pattern. She does a lot of pieces like this, right? For me, this often reminds me of a tree trunk. You know, when you cut a tree down and you kind of look at the trunk to see how old it is. So it kind of reminds me of that as well, right? So we're just going to take a nice little close up look to it, really take our time. So this particular piece we're going to go down is called Meditation or Respite number 3. And it's an edition of 5, so meaning that there's 4 other pieces like this. And as I said, it is a photo, so it's a digital print, and it's on loan to the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts because it was for a temporary exhibit. Okay, so that's the other good thing with the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts is that you'll have a permanent collection, so things that always stay at the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts, and then you'll have these temporary exhibits where it'll be artists that are coming and going, where maybe there might be a couple of pieces that will stay at the Montreal Museum, but for more often than not, the pieces will only stay there for a few months, and that's it. Oftentimes, the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts, and I'm not sure if this is typical of all museums, they'll have about three major exhibits every, let's say, 3 or 4 months, probably something like 3 months. And then they'll have maybe a month or so in between that of a break kind of thing to sort of set up the next exhibit that's coming out. So they have to take it down, pack it up, and then bring the new one, unpack it, and all that, set it up, and all that ritual, right? And then they'll have maybe for 6 weeks some smaller exhibits. So this was one of these smaller temporary exhibits. So it's more exhibits that are artists that are well known, but not necessarily very well known. Because there's a difference between, let's be honest, we all know Picasso, right? But most of you probably never heard of Nadia Amin, right? So there are going to be artists that are world renowned, that are going to attract a lot of attention, and are really going to get people to come in to the museum and watch it. So those ones are the ones that are going to be at the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts for 2, 3 months, maybe longer, right? While as the art and exhibits of Nadia Mil are going to be in the smaller temporary exhibits for maybe a few weeks, and then after that, quickly and easily replaced. And especially with Nadia Mil, since she's still technically alive, right, and still creating work, it's harder to have a collection like Picasso, who might have several hundreds of pieces from his entire lifespan, right? While as Nadia Mia, she might only have 20 or 30 pieces and she's still creating, right? So it's harder to create a major exhibit with her work than it is for somebody like Picasso, right? So I'm sure you guys had read a little bit of this, but just to recap a couple of sentences, the work is the different meditation series celebrate and update traditional indigenous beadwork. Okay, so these is indigenous beadwork. Okay, because with Nadia Mir, she is, like I said, indigenous herself. She is of Algonquin heritage. So for her, a lot of her artwork will be representative of the Algonquin identity and First Nations. For here in Canada, we say First Nations when we talk about our native peoples, right? First Nation and Inuit. Inuit is what you guys in the U.S. call the Eskimos, right? So the people that live way up north in the igloos and so forth. For us, we say Inuit when we talk about those individuals. Okay. But yeah, so for her, a lot of her work has to do with that identity, that Native American heritage of hers, and really trying to put that to the forefront and make sure that her art is always representative of her heritage and ethnicity. Right? Let me see in the chat if you guys are saying. Okay, no, good. Okay. If you guys have questions or anything, feel free. Don't hesitate to, hey, what about this? What about that? Can we go back to that photo? Whatever the case might be. Okay, guys? So don't be afraid to ask me questions. I might not see it right away because I am obviously looking at the photo, but I'll do my best, guys, to answer your questions. I might not always have the answer, but I'll do my best. All right, so that's one of the photos that I want to share with you guys of Nadia Mil. We're going to go to the next one of hers. Uh, excuse me. Now, obviously, as you guys know, here in Canada, just like in the US, a lot of the Native Americans are, of course, on tribal reservations. There is what's called here in Canada the Indian Act, which is the set of laws that govern the Native American peoples, or the First Nations, I should say, and mandated that if a First Nation individual wants to receive a certain amount of benefits, they have to live on a reservation, right? So there's a certain amount of governance that is required of the First Nations people. So Nadia Mir has put that into her work as well. So I'm going to share that piece with you guys as well, so that way you guys can see that tonight as well. So this is the next work. So as you can see, she took the actual laws and turned it into beaded work. So as you can see, there's 5, 10, 15, 20 different frames, and she's done individual things with them, right? We will zoom in on one of them later on. And as you can see, she's named each one. So it's a particular page of the individual law. So there's a lot of pages. So she didn't do it with all of them, but she picked 20 particular laws and then implicated individuals with that. Okay? And there's a certain amount of music as well. So as you can see, guys, all of this here in the description is stuff that I did, right? Some of you know this already, but on Flickr, I try to add the title and descriptions. And what you can see, click here, I add that HTML code so that if I were to actually click on the word here, it would bring me to a different page. Okay? And there was at one point some music associated with this, so I bring you to the music as well. So you guys are more than welcome to visit, and I'll try to put all of this in the description at the end, so that way you guys can see. You know what? I'll also, while you guys are here, I'll put at least this one into the chat, so that way you guys can follow along. So Indian act piece, so that way you guys can look for yourselves. And I'm just gonna go back to that other piece that I had. I'm gonna open it up, so just so that you guys can also see that piece as well in a more relaxed frame. Oop, no, that's not the right one. There we are. That's the right one. Okay. Excuse me. So those are the two pieces that we just saw that I put into the chat. So as you can see, this is the general piece, and I'll just go into one individual piece so that you guys can see close up what that is in just a second here. So this is one of the pieces that is individual, that's part of it. So as you can see, there's scotch tape, but on the left side here, that red part is actual beads, right? So she followed her traditional beadwork of her tribe to sort of integrate her heritage into the current laws that affect her tribe and her ethnicity, right? Because that's what the Indian Act is based on your ethnicity. We're going to treat you differently from everybody else, right? Whether we like it or not, whether we agree with it or not, that's what it is. Okay. Now, I'm not big on political debate or ethnic debates and so forth, right? But if you guys have something to say about it, feel free to do so in the chat. I'm not here to censor you guys. I'm all for polite conversations with people. If you are Native American and you want to talk about it, please say so, okay? Hopefully, we can all keep things respectful and polite with each other. but I personally do welcome political discourse and discourse about religion, as long as, like I said, as long as it's done politely and with consideration to other people's reality and the fact that we don't all live the same life, right? Okay, so this is a particular individual piece of that general one we just saw. So as you can see, it's the actual laws, and she built the beads in such a way that the white beads would basically run off into the sentences. Sentences, yeah, there we go. Okay, so we're going to view one more work from Nadia Mir, and then we're going to move on to our next artist. So this is the next piece. Now this one, okay, you kind of can see a little bit on the top of the ceiling here. What they did is that they built it a little motor, and it would pull up this basically this fishing net. Okay, so this fishing net would come up and down. I do have a video somewhere of it, but I couldn't find it in time for this live stream. Okay, but I know I have it somewhere. It might be on my YouTube channel, to be honest, but I'm not 100% sure. But it was definitely interesting to see this piece in actual motion, right? So it would move up and down and sort of almost like it was cast in a net and we were the fishes, essentially. So it was catching our attention in a figurative fashion, right? So we're just going to go smaller on this here. So this one is called Oraison or Horizon net, and it's obviously, as you can see here, made out of nylon rope, and again, it's on loan. Okay, so this is given a certain amount of information about lending or borrowing that particular piece. All right. So that was Nadia Mir. Hello, hello, Shattered Star Games. Bonsoir. Comment ça va? I hope you're doing well, Shattered Games. So Shattered, I'm talking about different Canadian artists. I first presented, that was Nadia Mir that I presented. So it's not too late. I'm going to give the link to this particular artwork that I just presented so that you can see for yourself what it's all about. And what's first gen? What are you saying? Indian laws are. Yeah, you're very right. First gen, the Indian laws are very controversial. I personally don't like them. I get that back in the day, they were to a certain degree necessary, where we kind of needed to find some way to govern the Native American tribes. But I think nowadays it's really very outdated and really not reflective of the reality that most of us live, including the Native American peoples themselves. Hello, Zombie Prepper. How are you? I'm hoping you're enjoying your evening tonight. So, Zombie, and of course, to Shattered Star Games as well. I'm talking about three particular Canadian artists. I just finished presenting Nadia Mir, okay, who's a Native American artist. She is of a First Nation heritage. She's from the Algonquin tribe, okay, and I did present three of her particular pieces. I'll try to later on tonight in the description add the links to the pieces that I showed tonight. So if you guys want to see them later on, feel free to do so. Just remember to go into the description. I'll also on my end try to remember to put them into the description. But if I forget, guys, don't hesitate to, hey, you didn't put the links. We want to see these photos. Come on, share. Sharon is Karen. Come on. Come on, she stole my thunder. Okay, but yeah, she's Native American, born in 1974 in Montreal. But I'll try to get all the links for her in the description, so that way you guys, if you shattered Star Games or Zombie Prepper, if you want to find out more about her, feel free to check out the description after later tonight, or worst case tomorrow morning. Uh, yes, let's see what you're saying. First gen in the States. Yes, unfortunately, it's the reality for Native Americans here as well. They're often not in the best living conditions. Particularly the Native American tribes are not, the Inuits, I should say, are not doing very well financially. They live basically in squalor, and I find it shameful. And that's kind of why I'm saying that the Indian Acts is really outdated and really not representative of the reality that many of our Native American tribes are going through. They're very hard hit in Canada as well, unfortunately. And I wish I could come out here and say it differently about the reality of our Native American tribes, but unfortunately, I can't. So, on that note, we're going to move on to our next artist. Now, this is an artist that I have spoken about in greater detail. And it is one of my only three 18 plus videos on my channel, because I do try to keep my channel G rated as much as possible, because I do want as many people viewing my content as possible. But because he does have certain amount of nudity in his painting, in his artwork, I felt that it was better that if I want to present him, that it would be better to be G-rated. But I'll make sure not to have any inappropriate photos or paintings in this particular conversation about him. But do keep it in mind that he too has a certain amount of controversy, but not necessarily controversy in a bad way, but controversy in the sense that some people, if you're very, very religious person, you may not like his work. Okay, so the next artist I'm going to present is Kent Monkman. Hello, hello, Trash Can Waves. Thank you for being here. So, Trash Can, I am talking about three Canadian artists. I just finished speaking about Nadia May. I am going to talk about Kent Monkman. Now, I don't know, Trash, if you were there for when I first spoke about him, maybe I think 2 months ago. But I'm talking about this artist for the second time. So this is not the first time that I'm speaking about this particular artist. But I hope that if you have seen it, that you're still going to enjoy it. But if you haven't, welcome, and I hope that this particular um, talk will be enjoyable and informative. Now, as I said, he is a bit controversial, okay, because he is as well of Canadian heritage, and he's the second artist that I'm presenting tonight of Native American or First Nation, I should say, heritage. He is of Cree ancestry, although his father is of Irish descent, so he's a mixed kid like me. So definitely rocking the best of the both worlds. He is born in Manitoba in 1965, and he had a pretty decent life, but he did not know about his heritage until later on in his life, where he did go on a sort of discovery, like many people who find out about their heritage later on in life, to sort of figure out his roots and what he wanted to do with himself after discovering his heritage and ethnicity and so forth. Which is fine to me. I look, we all discover it. Sometimes we know right away. Sometimes we figure it out later on. Now, one of the reasons why he is controversial is part of his self discovery and really becoming who he is as a person, is that he is uh, part of the LGBTQ plus community. He is trans, okay? and he has a alter ego by the name of Mischief Share Mischief Share Ego Testicle. Okay, and it is controversial because obviously not everybody is agrees with the LGBTQ plus community. I personally do support it, but I understand that for many it goes against their Christian or Muslim religious beliefs. And hey, for me, as long as you're not hurting anybody, you're free to think and do what you want, right? So, guys, if you are going to talk about it, please be polite, be nice. I don't mind if you guys disagree, okay? Don't have to like it because I like it. You don't have to hate it because I dislike it, right? But he is a part of that community. And if you don't agree, okay, you don't agree, but just be respectful, guys, okay? So he is part of that community, okay, and he has also made that part of his paintings. So, like Nadia Mir, a lot of his paintings are about identity, are about a Native American heritage. In his case, there are many Native American tribes that there is a third gender. So that's why for him it is important on those levels as well to integrate both his Native American heritage and the fact that he is part of the LGBTQ plus community. Because for him, it really goes hand in hand with his ethnicity and his religious beliefs as well. Because he is more in that community, and he realized that part of his heritage, his Native American heritage, is open-minded to the third quote unquote third gender, where it's two spirits, where you might feel like you're a woman trapped in a man's body or a man in a woman's body, etc. So for him, it is normal to be part of both. It's not abhorrent, it's not a sin, it's not a conflict of interest. Okay? So I will be showing a couple um, of his paintings. Okay, thank you, Gail, for taking care of the night bot, that little Russian bot that I had. Thank you, Gail. It's always a good sign when you have the Russian bots coming in to deal with you and hey, come and see this link. I know I'm hitting it big time when I have the Russian bots coming around. And please, guys, I hope I'm not offending you guys when I say that I do support the LGBTQ plus community. For me, it's not about being against anybody. I try to be as open-minded as possible towards as many people as I can. And for me, as long as you're not harming anybody, as long as you're not out there trying to be like, death to this person, death to that. No, I'm good friends with trash cans. At least I hope I'm good friends with trash cans. And he's hey, let's have guns, let's have this. That's not my life, but hey, I respect trash, and I know hey, he has a legal right to have guns, and he takes care of it. He's responsible with it. I'm good with it. I'm fine with that. So for me, it's not because you guys have a different point of view that I'm going to dislike you or hate you or think you're a horrible person. I try as much as possible to have friends of different backgrounds, of different mentalities, because I truly believe that we can unite despite our different point of view. Yes, that's right, first gen. Can't we just all get along? Can't we just be friends? So please, guys, I hope I'm not turning you guys off with my talk of LGBTQ plus of the queer community. I feel that it's important for everybody to be represented and to feel safe and welcomed in my chat and in my community. And hopefully, you guys feel that. Hopefully, but if you guys don't feel welcome, please, I'd rather you tell me and be upfront and honest and direct with me, so that hey, maybe there's something I could do differently. I hope at least. Okay, so I'm gonna show two or three pieces of him, and I'll try to make sure that the pieces are rated G. Okay, because I do admit that these are pieces that sometimes there's some nudity and things like that that are involved and may not necessarily be, not everybody's ready to see this. So I'll try to make sure that they're not they're not inappropriate in any way. Excuse me, guys. Like I said earlier, I'm still, even though I feel a lot better, I'm still recovering a little bit from being a bit sick. So I got a couple pieces here that I know I can share, and that won't be too unholy for our precious, precious eyes. Uh, okay, I'll show this one as well. There we are. Okay, so we're just going to get to the share screen here, guys. So this is one of, it's a very large piece, and this is just a small section of it. So as you can see, he used different mediums here, where it's actual porcelain vase and all these different things to create a scenery of ancient or old-timey scenery, essentially. So this is the kind of place settings we would imagine in the mid 1800s, maybe even 1700s in New France, because at one point Canada and part of the US was under the control of France until the Great Britain took over, right? So this is very evocative of that, right? So this I didn't go into the editing and add the place name, but there's different individual names for each all of all these different pieces here. Okay, so and it's made out of different types of material to sort of so so that's one piece that he made. And basically, hello, Problem Child Project. How you doing? I hope you're well tonight. And the other thing with Kent Monkman is he integrates mischief to sort of quote unquote re envision the Canadian history, right? Because history, is often written by the hands of the victor, right? By the people that came out as the winners. So, of course, uh, Canada being under British rule, and even until now, technically, because we are still technically a British colony, which is why we still have a queen on our money and a governor general. Obviously, the Canadian history has basically been whitewashed by Great Britain, essentially. So what you know Kent Monkman does is that he'll include mischief in his paintings or work to sort of retell those stories and to sort of give it the perspective of a First Nation, um, a First Nation perspective, and really take it as, okay, you had 100, 200, 300 years to tell your story. Now it's time for us to tell our story and how it felt for us as the Native Americans, as the First Nations, being subjected to British rules. Oh, you're Saskatchewan. I'm from Canada too, as well. I'm from Montreal, Quebec. So glad to have a fellow Canadian here. Great, fantastic. So yeah, so I'm talking right now about Canadian artists. So I spoke a little earlier about Nadia Mir. Hopefully you heard about her. Right now I'm talking about Kent Monkman, who's of Cree descent and from Manitoba. So cool beans. I'm always happy to see my fellow Canucks in the house. So hopefully you're enjoying this problem child. And if you have heard of these artists, great, fantastic. But even if you haven't, I hope that you're learning something about our fellow Canadian artists. So we're going to go to the next image that I have to show you about Kent Monkman. Let's go and find it. La di da. So this is the next piece. So as you can imagine, with what I just said, this woman here that you see is Kent Monkman as Mischief Eagle Testicle. So when you see Mischief, it's not Kent Monkman drawing a fictional woman. Kent Monkman is Mischief. Mischief is Kent Monkman. And when I talked about him revamping Canadian history, this is a portrait of an actual Canadian, right? And he sort of puts Mischief in that place and sort of retells that story. And as you can see, Mischief, Chief's makeup is running, right? Because Mischief is crying to sort of represent that victimhood that so many First Nation people have gone through at the hands of the colonizers that were France and Great Britain at one point, right? And you kind of get the impression here with the alcohol spilling and the empty bottle here that this individual may be a little bit drunk and not necessarily the best person. There's a bit of a mess on his blouse here as well, and of course he has a cigar going in his hand, right? So this is a country wife by Kent Monkman, and of course it's acrylic on canvas. So that's sort of the whole point of here. You're talking about the life that many women would have gone through, where men could openly be abusive if that's what they so chose towards their wife, right? There was no such thing as abuse back in the day. If a man felt that he needed to hit his wife to teach her a lesson, that's what happened, regardless of whether she actually deserved it or not, right? And for many British people, that's sort of the same thing that they felt towards First Nation, towards Black people, towards a lot of individuals, right? They did not look at many groups as human beings for a long time. Many individuals felt that Black people were just, there was no difference between Black people, Native American peoples, and a desk or a computer or whatever. You know what I mean? They were just objects. They were just cattle to be used and abused in any way, shape, or form. Unfortunately. Now, thankfully, this is a minority of people that think like that, especially these days. They do not represent all of Canada, thank God, but they're definitely still present, unfortunately. Yeah, he definitely looks. He's over it. He's definitely. Let me get out of here. Let me. I've had enough. I've had enough. And again, guys, I will put all these photos in the description later on for you guys to view it on your own. And it is my photos that I took. So when you comment on Flickr, I will see it, and you guys are more than welcome to comment on the photos. To join Flickr, it is technically free. And you do have to join to comment directly on Flickr, but you don't have to, guys. I'm not an affiliate of Flickr, so if you don't want to, don't worry. I'm not making any money off of it either way, so don't worry, okay? I'm just letting you guys know. So if you guys have questions, let me know, guys. If there's something that you want to go back to or know more about, please let me know. So I just need to take a second to cough a little bit, and I'll be right back with you guys. So enjoy the music for a moment, guys. All right, thank you for your patience, guys. So the last artist that we're going to talk about tonight Is, of course, a white male, but it's okay. We did represent women, indigenous people, and everything else. So I have no problems talking about white people. So, and he is a good artist. So let's get going with this. So the last artist I'm going to present tonight is Marc-Aurèle Fortin. He is a fellow Quebec artist, but he was born in St. Rose in 1888, and he did pass away on March 2nd on in 1970. Right, so he is of a certain generation and really represented Montreal, Quebec, Canada in a certain light. Now, he hasn't done anything like, oh my God, these black people are horrible and things like that, but you know, I'm not out here saying that he was a perfect man either. And just like all the other artists, if you guys like him, great, fantastic. If you don't, that's fine. I'm not out here telling you guys you have to love these artists, or else I'm going to be oh my God, it's gonna no. If you guys, these are artists that I like, that I think are enjoyable, but you don't have to like what I like, guys. Okay, so if you have other artists that you think, hey, this is an artist that I like that would have been better to talk about, or can you present him instead, etc., etc., feel free to say so, guys. Like I said before, I'm all for discussion. I'm all for us having a different opinion. As long as we're being respectful, I have no problems with you guys disagreeing with my opinion. And that's all this is here, guys, is me representing my opinion, my thoughts, my ideas, and I welcome you guys saying we think different. Okay? So we're going to talk about, again, a little bit about Marc-Aurèle Fortin. So he is, of course, of a certain generation. He got his break by, like a lot of people in the art world, by going through the Art Association of Montreal. Now, I, of course, have heard of the Art Association of Montreal, but and I have talked about it on several occasions, but many of you might not have realized it because the Art Association of Montreal was the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts, right? Until 1954 or so, um, that was where people would go to show their art, right? If you were an up and coming artist and you wanted to make a name for yourself and you happened to live in Quebec, uh, if you really wanted to become part of the art world, you had to be exhibited at the Art Association of Montreal. That's how you would make your name. People in there would actually judge your work and see, yes, this is acceptable. Yes, we can call you a Canadian artist. We want you to be part of our world. You have our stamp of approval, and you now can make a career. Or they'll look at your work and say, no, we'll pass. And of course, many artists would have their careers ruined because of this. And of course, many would rebel against the Art Association and create their own associations and their own awards and judgments and so forth so that they can make a name for themselves, regardless of whether the Art Association of Montreal would actually give their stamp of approval. Now, of course, once it became the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts, of course, the Artists Association of Montreal, their objectives became very different and were transformed as the years went on. So when you hear the Art Association of Montreal, guys, think to yourself, this was the ancestor to the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts. So he is one of the contributors that made basically the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts what it is today. And you will see quite a few of his works at the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts. Um, and he did win, while he was alive, quite a few awards, and he did have quite a few exhibits that were displayed of his work, including the National Gallery of Canada in 1963. So He was an associate of the Royal Academy as well. So he has gotten quite a lot of recognition, quite a lot of awards, and has had his work on display at many different places. So he's not a new artist that's unknown. So whereas like the other artists, we're going to show three of his works so that you guys can see a little bit of what I'm talking about. Let me just make sure I have them the right ones. So I'm just trying to find. How come I don't have them? Okay. Hmm, Okay. Alrighty. I guess I will have to do it like so. Okay, give me a moment here, guys. Just wanna make sure I pick the right ones. Yeah. Alright. Oh, thank you. I'm glad that you liked the explanation. Good, good. All right, so we're going to talk about our Marc-Aurèle. We're going to show you guys the first piece from him, and he's definitely a rated G artist. Like a lot of his contemporaries, um, Mark really, uh, a lot of times, the artists up until the 1700s, 1800s, give or take. I'm not giving you guys exact dates here, so don't quote me on the dates, okay? Up until that point, when a painter painted, they often would paint portraits of up and coming people, so people of that were of the 1%, right? Or they would paint scenes from the Bible or the Torah, right? Religious scenes, right? That was a typical thing that most artists would do. One of those two things, okay? And if they did do landscapes, they would try to more to integrate, religious figures or figures from mythology and things like that, right? Um, so in the 1800s, what happened is that more and more the artists were like, you know what, I get it, religion is important, but we'd rather paint our own lives. We'd rather paint uh, scenes of Canadiana, of Americana, right? We want to represent the life of a Canadian, right? Of what it's like for us living in this country day to day, or maybe there's a beautiful scene that you want to share, right? So Mark was of that group, that generation, that mentality of let me just paint Canada. Canada is beautiful on its own. I don't need to add a minotaur in order to show the struggles of the life in Canada. Canada in the 1800s, it was not an easy life. You didn't have to have minotaurs in order for that to be true. Life in Canada nowadays isn't always pleasant. Believe me, when I walked outside today, I was like, let me go back home. I don't want to work. I'm good staying home. But of course, I have to make my money, cold or not. So and I didn't need a minotaur to be part of my scenery in order for my life to be a struggle, in order for my day to day to be difficult, right? So more Canadians are like, I just want to represent my country, the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it, right? So that's what he would do. He would paint the landscape of Montreal, of Canada, of whatever he saw, right? And that's why some of the artists would get rejected at the Art Association of Montreal because for that association, like a lot of these boards, were like very stringent and strict on what was considered art. They had very specific rules and regulations that were required of up and coming artists. So if you did not suit their needs exactly like, you could get rejected, even though you might have good quality craftsmanship and hand strokes, and your paintings were very beautiful. If you did not paint what they wanted, you would not get into the Art Association of Montreal. You would not be exhibited at all in the gallery, flat out. And consequently, your career as an artist potentially was halted right then and there because of it. So you had to be pleasing to these board members and really make sure that you were painting what they wanted. So I'm just going to take a little bit of a break because I feel like I'm about to cough. So just give me a moment, guys. Here, okay? Thank you. Excuse me. I was hoping to be able to mute, but I can't mute while. Okay, so I'm gonna push through, and we're going to go to the first painting. Yeah, that's the one. And then I'm going to pause for a moment, guys. So just give me a second. I'll let you guys watch this while I mute myself. All right, I'm back, guys. So I'm going to give you guys a little bit of an explanation. So as you can see, Mark is really just showing a basic landscape of Canada, right? And as you can see, unlike the paintings from 100 years ago, 200 years ago, where they're trying to be very realistic and basically um, photo quality, like you're really taking a picture of the person, of the scene. As you can see here, the people aren't painted specifically, right? It's pretty much a stick figure, right? You can tell that this is a woman in a dress, but you're not seeing details, right? It's very figurative, right? You see the tree here, you know it's a tree, but you're not seeing the individual leaves, right? It's basically blobs of green, essentially, right? So that's the other part of the transformation that's going on in the 1800s, right? So not only are you having paintings that are slowly but surely detaching themselves from religious figurations, right, where it's about representing religion in day to day life, or people of high um, of high importance, right? The 1%. Here we're just showing two random people walking in the woods, walking in a path in the middle of Canada, right? You can probably tell that there's a field in the back here, right? This might be two farmers going to the village or whatever, or going to town to sell their wares, whatever the case might be, right? They're just two random individuals walking to wherever they need to be going, right? So it's nothing here is uberly representative specifically exactly of reality, right? We all know this is Canada in the 1800s, but you're not getting specific details. While as an artist, if this was done 200 years ago, you'd be able to count the leaves, basically, right? You'd see detailed leaves. And of course, you'd have here, what's this little figure here, right? What is this, a human being hiding? Is this a demon? What is this, right? So you have all these things that are left to your imagination, right? So this one is going to be called Uprooted Tree. Okay, it was done about 1950, so later on in the life of Marc-Aurèle Fortin, and it was purchased. So it's part of the permanent collection of the Montreal Museum, and it was bought in 1986, and it was the fourth item that they were bought. Because as you guys know, the inventory for the Montreal Museum of Fine Arts, it includes the year that it was purchased, and if it was the first, second, third, fourth, whatever item. So if you see a year, that's the year it was purchased, and the dot, the number after the dot, That's the number of items that it was bought. So this is the fourth item that was bought that year. Okay, so that's called Uprooted Tree. Now, are you guys seeing anything? Okay, no. Okay, so we're gonna go to the next painting from Marc-Aurèle. So again, another painting of a tree. So again, he does a little too close up. There we go. Okay, that's better. So he, again, with Mark, he does a lot of nature scenes, right? So landscape, talking about painting trees and right. So as you guys can see, there's not like he's getting a little bit more details here, right? Where you get some basic shapes of leaves, and you have a sense. Okay, this is a very tall tree. You got the clouds in the back, right? You got two people here, most likely women. But again, you're not getting to great big details, right? You're just giving you a general idea of the life of a Canadian in the 1800s, right? So this one's called Tall Elms at St. Rose. So this is in Marc-Aurèle's hometown, okay? And it's on loan. And as you can see, this is in the towards modernism, okay? So that particular pavilion in the permanent collection of the Montreal Museum is, like I was saying, that part of the museum where it's that transitionary period for Montreal in general, where we're going from how things used to be represented in painting, in art in general, to how they're more presented these days. So rather than representing, the lords and the bishops and the popes and religious figures and, ancient mythology, you're now talking more about the Canadian landscape, right? So you're going to have more paintings like this, where you're going to show the scenery of an average city in Montreal, in Quebec, in Canada in general. We're going to do a painting like we showed before, where it's just a painting of a mountain, of a tree that's been uprooted, right? You're just showing day to day life in Canada, right? The natural beauty of Canada. So I'm going to show you guys one last photo, and then we're going to call it a night after this one. There are some walking trails in Canada. I'm not a big walker myself, first gen corporate, but there are quite a few. And I know they usually have the walking trails associated with bike trails. But here in Montreal, there's not really that many walking trails per se. There's quite a lot of large parks where you could, as we say in French, do a randonnée, where you could just basically walk around. But there aren't really trails per se for walking. Where you might find more walking trails is when you really started to go further away from Montreal. So you're going to the smaller towns, like I would say Joliette, or some of the smaller towns, that are maybe half an hour, 45 minutes drive away from Montreal. I would say that you would probably find more walking trails there. We do have the Montreal Botanical Garden. Sorry, Montreal Botanical. I was freezing on that. I'm like, how can I be freezing on that name when I used to go there pretty much every weekend during the summer. But yes, the Botanical Garden is another area where people, especially like I said during the summer, would walk around and enjoy nature. It is one of the largest botanical gardens, not only in the province but around the world as well. So but like I said, if you really want to, let's say, walk from one end of Montreal to the other, you really it would be very difficult to do that in Montreal. very difficult, and not only difficult but very long as well. Because Montreal is surprisingly a large island. So we're gonna show the last the last little painting, and I'll call it a night after this one, and I'll make sure, guys, to update the description so that everything that you see here you'll be able to view on your own during your own time and at your own pace. So this is the last painting, and it's again from Marc-Aurèle. So we see a very sharp contrast between this painting and the paintings we saw before. I just need to take another little break, guys. I'll be right back with you. Won't be long. All right, thank you guys for giving me a little break. So as you can see, like I said, this is a very sharp contrast between this painting and the two paintings we saw before. This one is the Montreal Harbour, and it was painted sometime between 1934 and 1944, and it was acquired in 2012, and it was the 65th item that they acquired in that year. So as you can see, like I said before, Marc Aurèle, like many of his time, was there to represent um, Montreal, Canada as it was, right? But also to show the contrast between the life he knew, right? So that life of nature, of large elm trees, and you had uprooted trees in the middle of a forest and things like that. And now you have, of course, the Montreal Harbor, which is dirty and grimy, filled with metal, right? You had all these smoke pipes and things like that, right? It's very different from the life that Mark knew in St. Rose, which was much more peaceful, much more calm, much more connected to nature. So it was just as important for him to show that life could be connected to nature and really have that connection to the wildlife, to Mother Nature, and really try to distance himself from this life. Right? He definitely was not a Montrealer and was definitely not part of this life. For him, this was abhorrent and really something that was, should be disconnected from. Right? This is not the life that he felt that people should live. Right? It should not be about deteriorating boats in the harbor. Right? Um, for him, that life where you're connected with nature is definitely much more important, and that's why for him it was so important to represent that beauty of Canadian nature, right? Of being able to go fish off, excuse me, fish off the land, live off the land, and excuse me, being able to provide for yourself based on the plot of land that you had, and really being connected to nature, right? Which is obviously not the Montreal Harbor, because obviously when you're talking about a harbor, you're talking about import export, right? Things that are coming from elsewhere, right? So you're talking about our first trades with places like China, like India, right? Of Europe, right? Things are not coming from Montreal. They're not coming from other Canadians, right? They're coming from quote unquote foreigners, right? So that's the other issue that could be talked about with this kind of image. So that's pretty much it for me tonight, guys. And like I said, I will be adjusting the description to show all of the paintings that I showed tonight from the three different artists that I spoke about. So again, I spoke about Nadia May, who's of First Nation heritage. She's Algonquin. I spoke about Kent Monkman, who also is First Nation. He's Cree. And then we have, of course, Marc-Aurèle Fortin, who's a white Frenchman. All three, thank you, Gail. Yes, definitely hit the like button, folks. All three are Canadian in their own way, and they're all really talking about Canadian identity and what it means to be Canadian. They all have different meanings to that. They represent that differently, not only because of their different ethnicity, but also because of the time and place that they grew up with. We saw that for Kent Monkman, um, being native also is being part of the LGBTQ plus community. For Nadia Mir, her identity was one in one with her First Nation heritage. And for Marc Aurèle, it was all about nature and being connected to that Canadian grandiose scenery and the mountains and the trees and the moose and the beavers, right? And really staying connected to nature and really not allowing this modernization to overtake our lives, right? So we have three very different perspectives of what it is to be Canadian, but all of them were shown we are Canadian. This is our lives. This is who we are. Um, we are as much Canadian as the next person, and just because it looks different doesn't mean it's invalid, right? For me, all three of these individuals are representative of Canada and what it means to be Canadian. So I hope you guys enjoyed this and I hope you guys learned something. And again, if you guys are watching this on the replay, if you guys have comments, questions, feel free to leave that in the comment section. And as long as you guys stay respectful, I'm all for having an open discussion of any of the artists that I spoke about today. You don't have to like these artists, guys. I pick them because I enjoy it, but I'm not expecting you guys to be falling in love and okay, well because she stole my thunder, love stars. I love no. You guys have the right to disagree with me, and like I said, as long as you guys stay respectful, I'm all for having discussions and saying, hey, what is it that you didn't like? What about this? What about that? Etc. Okay, guys. And like First Gen Corporate, if you guys have ideas, if you guys have thoughts, if there's something that you want me to talk about, don't be afraid to mention it either in the chat or in the comments. I can't guarantee I'm going to talk about it, but I'll at least consider it. Tomorrow morning, I will be going live again. I will have my creepy side of YouTube, which is a new series that I decided to start up where I show some of the rabbit holes that I go down sometimes and really show some of the things that I find and it's like, how did I get here? This is weird, but I like it. It's okay. Hey, I'm glad I'm here. So tomorrow I'll be talking about Monuments Mythos. It is the creepy side of YouTube, so it might not necessarily be for everybody, but I hope that I'll see you guys there tomorrow morning. Of course, Friday night I will have my book review. Saturday morning I will have my movie review. And Thursday morning I will have me quietly reading Game of Thrones as usual. Every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday at 9:30, I read quietly Game of Thrones for half an hour. So I hope to catch you guys on one of these lives. If it's not one of these lives, I hope to catch you guys on one of your lives. Gail at night, don't be shy to promote one of your videos or let us know when you're going live. Same thing for you, for Gen Corporate. Don't be afraid to let us know when you're going live next. Hello, Problem Child Project. I hope that you stayed till the end and that you enjoyed it. If not, thank you for your support. I'm so glad that you spent any amount of time with me, whether it's just a few minutes or for the entire live. And same thing goes for you, Zombie Prepper and Shattered Star Games. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Before the billions, thank you for stopping by and spending some time. Lashes, I hope you were listening despite me. I think I think that you were probably working, but I hope you were listening in the background. But in any case, Lashes, I'm glad that you stopped by, even if it was just a few minutes during your shift at work. And Dojo of Manhood, thank you for being here and spending any amount of time with me, whether again it was the full episode or just a couple of minutes. I'm always happy to see you stopping by here. And guys, like I said, I hope you guys learned something. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And feel free, like I said, to comment, to like, to share. And I hope you enjoyed it. If you guys have ideas, like I said, let me know. And I hope to see you guys in one of my streams that are coming up later on this week. And if I don't see you one of my streams, I hope to see you guys in one of your streams, in one of your videos. So have a great night, guys, and I hope all of you have a wonderful Tuesday night, Wednesday, Thursday, and the rest of the week goes absolutely fantastic for you guys. So if there's somebody that you haven't said I love you to, that you haven't hugged in a while, now's the time to go do it, guys. And if you're a bit shy, if you're not really sure how to do it, just use me as an excuse, right? Just you know what? She stole my thunder, wanted to give you a hug, and just give them a big bear hug for me. Okay, guys? So have a good one. Good night. Au revoir. Bye bye.